close my eyes, I open my heart, I'll take a deep breath, let the healing start. I lift my hands, I plant my feet, I let love in, I feel the beat that's calling us to rise, rise.
Good morning. Please pray with me. I know that God is all there is. I know that each one of us here is an individualized expression of that one. And from each other, we can feel the love of God radiate from our inner selves. We know that as this happens, those around us feel comfortable and know how to grow and emerge. I'm very, very grateful for all the hands that have put this service together. From AJ coming down from Colorado Springs to the volunteers, Nikki setting the chairs. Everything that happens is done for the grace of God, in the grace of God. And I'm grateful for that. I'm very grateful for the time that we get to spend together because we grow as a community and as family. And I ground this together. We ground this together, please, by saying, and so it is.
It is.
Words of inspiration. Helen Keller. Faith is the strength by which a shattered world shall emerge into the light. Lloyd Banks. I see myself as a flashlight in the dark. I'm not trying to be overlooked anymore. Our founder, Ernest Holmes. All the power of the universe is with you. Feel it, know it, and then act as if it were so.
So for the past 4 weeks, if you've been paying attention, I have been encouraging you to pause for guidance. That has been our theme for the month. And in this idea of pausing for guidance, we have been looking at all of the hustle and bustle that kind of kicked into gear sometime around, I don't know, the 1900s. No, I'm kidding. Sometime around spring this year, and then it kept getting busier and it kept getting busier, and we moved back into that place of being able to get together and go to restaurants and all these wonderful things. And I don't know about you, but my life has gotten incredibly busy. And so what we've been reminded of this month is just to pause, to take some time to relax into the space and into the moment. The first week we looked at getting a tune-up and talked about what does the physical body and the spiritual being need for us to continue on? What would be good for us to take advantage of at this moment in this time? And then we talked about taking time to play and how important that is, because we have a tendency to take life way too seriously. And so taking some time and moving into that playfulness and that time of just relaxing and playing and maybe coloring in a book or coloring on the wall if that's what you choose to do. And then we looked at the idea of what does the imagination do for us? And what kind of things spark our imagination? And how this beautiful, amazing thing called our mind, our imagination, is limitless. And we can step into this time, we can step into this space and this place, and then tap into something else, something different, something new. And then last week, we talked about our GPS, that internal compass that's within us. And I encourage you to take some time this past week and just kind of check in and see if you're where you want to be. Are you on track with where you're headed, with what you choose to have in your life right now? And it doesn't have anything to do with your physical age. It has to do with that spirit, that spunk, that energy that is alive within each and every one of us. And so today we're going to talk about rise and reemerge. Because if we want to make it through the next 4 months of the year, we need to kind of show up a little bit. We need to get energized and decide what we're going to do. And what I like about this coming at this time of the year is we don't always look at things like this right now. You know, in the spring we talk about, you know, you plant the seed and then, you know, and then we get into activity and we get kicking into gear. And now people are starting to slow down. Well, I haven't noticed anything slowing down. In fact, I've noticed more happening, at least in my neighborhood, than I had before. And so we're going to move into this space and this place and talk about this just for a couple of minutes today. I have a quote here from Rumi that says, "You've seen my descent, now watch my rising." You see, once we've taken the time to check in, to connect, to reflect, to pause, then we're ready to step up again. And when you talk about that idea of descent, we kind of disappear. When we go into that place of pause, taking a break, kicking back for a few moments, we kind of go into that place where we're not necessarily seen, we're not showing up. But when we begin to rise again, when we begin to reemerge, we are visible. And so I want you to think about that very idea of how this works. I have had the opportunity since I've been in this philosophy to work with a lot of people who do energy work. And everyone I've ever worked with has told me that it is really important to the physical being and the soul for us to pay attention to the changing seasons and allow our body and our being the time of ritual just as the season. You know, I found out that there are over 50 varieties of flowers that only bloom in the fall in Colorado. So they're not all dying off. There's some birthing coming forth, some emergence coming forth. And the trees know what to do. I saw a little gold branch the other day with a couple of golden leaves, and I thought, oh no, and then I thought, no, yay, yay. I forgot for a second what I was supposed to say there. And so this week, my encouragement for you, my invitation for you is to take some time for ritual. What is that little energetic thing that you could do for yourself in your home, in the quiet, in the peacefulness, that is a demonstration of rising and reemerging? Because one of the things we know that what already lies within each of us is all the God qualities that we need. We really already have it. We just have a wonderful tendency to turn our attention somewhere and kind of forget sometimes. So we want to relax into that knowing of who we are and how we are. So I have 2 points for you this morning. And the first one is to embrace self-awareness. The I am that we are. And this week I encourage you to take some time for I am statements. Say what you are, who you are, and how you are. Self-awareness. This is the practice that illuminates our alignment with all of our science of mind principles. I am is one of the most powerful statements you can make. So be careful. Because if you're making some negative statements about the I am that you are, you're doing harm. And that's not what we want to do. This is the practice of being conscious of who we are and how we show up. Who is that being that you are? Many of us took a break for about 16 months, didn't get out in public much, didn't have to put on all our underwear. We got to hang around the house and do whatever. And now we're out there. I catch myself sometimes in the car looking down to make sure I have the same shoes on or whatever, because, you know, I just kind of, I guess I thought I got out of practice. So we're invited to renew our curiosity and curiosity of self. This is a time to decide who I am And maybe not even decide, because we should already know that, but to reflect on it and to encourage ourselves and to acknowledge ourselves and to celebrate who we are. This quote says, "Self-awareness is not self-judgment. It is looking and seeing and discovering who you really are. So check your judgment at the door. Do not leave here today. Go home and pull out your journal and start writing all of the junk that you wish you weren't." That is not what I'm talking about with this idea of self-awareness. We're not going to talk about bringing judgment into it at all. What is the joy about you? What is that wonderful thing that people say about you when they've had an opportunity to spend time with you? Take moments to reflect on those positive statements. That's the important piece. Ask simple questions. One that I have come up with a lot recently is, would I be doing this if someone, or this particular someone, wasn't asking me to? Because what I like to know is, am I willingly stepping into an activity, or am I feeling some kind of pressure to do something because of the individual or individuals who are asking me? We don't want to come from that place of obligation that puts a heavy damper on our energy. Am I doing this because I really want to? I'm always asking my sons, my grandsons, the same question. If nobody else was involved, would you do it? If nobody was going to tell you you're wrong, or you didn't have to confess later, or whatever, is this something you'd want to do? Because that's what we want to look at. Where's that energy, that joy coming from? So this week we're going to look at, how do I want to show up? How am I showing up? And is there a couple little things I might want to adjust in my life, in my family, in my community? The second point I have for you today is to be spiritually discerning. I learned this word, I probably learned the word a long time ago, but I learned what it really meant in this philosophy quite a few years ago. When a minister who I loved dearly was talking about the idea of unconditional love and talking about discernment, and how we get really messed up in our heads between discerning and judging. So I'm going to try and give you an example of how this works. If I'm judging, I observe someone doing something, and I go to that place of, what in the heck are they doing? Why is he doing this? What is he thinking? What is she? Oh my gosh, this is going to be a disaster. See where my brain is going? And I make them wrong. And the challenge with judgment is when I make somebody else wrong in whatever they're doing, whether I talk to them about it or not, because we think we're skating if we don't tell them. But if I make them wrong, I have created within me a negative energy. And then I walk away, and I either call someone on the phone, or I run into someone I know and I'm like, oh my gosh, you wouldn't believe what I saw. You wouldn't believe what just happened. This dude in traffic. Now here's what I want you to pay attention to this week. When we do that, there is a weight that settles in on the being. There is an energy that is heavy, and you begin to carry that with you. Whenever I judge someone, I'm taking on an energy. They're clueless, because I don't walk over and try to correct them. That's not my job. If their mother didn't correct them by the time they were 8 years old, it's not going to happen. But if I take that and I capture it and I hold on to it and I carry it with me, now I'm carrying a heaviness with me. Here's what discernment's about. In the idea of discernment, I say, I want to spend time with people who have joyful energy. I want to be in that place of high energy and happiness and grace and respect. I haven't made it personal. I'm only talking about what kind of energy and what kind of individuals I want to invite into my inner circle. And that, my friends, is very light. It's almost fluttery the way that feels. Because it isn't about you. It isn't about a specific person. It's about an all-encompassing grace that I want to invite into my life. That's the difference, in my opinion, between discerning and judging. This quote says, "Life offers you a lot of invitations. Be wise enough to choose which are worth attending to." There's so many things we can do. There's so many activities we can be involved in. There's so many people we can connect with. This week, I encourage you to consider the idea of rise and reemerge and look at what kind of energy does it take to rise? What kind of energy does it take to reemerge, to show up, to be present, to be authentic? Because if we're scrambling around trying to pay attention to 50,000 different things because we've had all these wonderful invitations and we can't say no, we're going to get bogged down with that. Wisdom. I chose this quote because it says, "Be wise enough." Be wise enough. Every single one of us in this room has the very same wisdom that is in spirit. The power, wisdom, is present in each and every one of us. Don't call yourself stupid. Don't downplay who you are. Remind yourself that the same wisdom that is God is within you. And be wise enough. And as we continue to embark on our spiritual journey, take time to pause. Take time to seek that guidance. And maybe it's going into prayer, maybe it's seeking out prayer support, maybe it's just tapping in to the energy in the body. Because what I have discovered is the more I slow down, the more I recognize negative mannerisms, negative behaviors, and negative energies that I once ignored. I mean, did you ever have one of those moments in time where you're feeling a little anxious and you're not really thinking much about it, and the next thing you know, you've got a pain in your jaw or a pain in your neck or in your lower back? And you're thinking, what the heck is going on? And now and then you have a headache, and you're like, oh my gosh, what is going on? And we just keep trudging along. We have to stop and pause, pace ourselves, and allow ourselves to reflect. What's showing up in me? I decided to test this past week, and I took a whole day. I don't know, it wasn't a whole day. It was probably 3 or 4 hours, and I completely disconnected all of my energy sources so that I felt like my brain was completely scrambled. And I was vocal about it to myself because nobody else was around. I didn't need to be around anybody else with that kind of energy. At least I knew that. And then finally I stopped and said, wait a second. How about I just sit down and breathe and take a moment and remind myself who I am. Tapping into that self-awareness. And then using some discernment, because discernment for me came from the place of how was I behaving? And when I make a judgment in my head about somebody in traffic or something that I've just done, I know I'm not living in that place of spiritual discernment. So I encourage you to look at this week. If you need another tune-up, get one. If you need time for play, take the time. If you need to tap into that imagination and just play with it for a little bit and see what you can create, then do that. And take that breath that is going to guide us through the remainder of this year, 2021, that we're going to just rise up over the top, re-emerge, refreshed, renewed. Our call this week is to align, be aware, be awake. Ernest Holmes, Dr. Ernest Holmes, our founder, said this: spiritual growth is the essence and beautiful action of life itself. This is eminently important and is the ultimate reward which reflects in your abilities and activities of daily living. In the book, How to Change Your Life, Ernest Holmes teaches us that the first step we take involves becoming aware of the fact that we already are God in action. We're already God expressing. And I know that sometimes those words become interesting for us to embrace because we want to tell ourselves, yeah, well, maybe that person, but not me. And the truth is, it's all of us. Each one of us has the God qualities. Each one of us has everything we need, everything we want, everything we could desire. We just need to recognize it, pay attention to it, and be one with it. Ernest Holmes also said this: there is something within you that sings the song of eternity. Listen. Listen to it. This week, I encourage you to remember who you are, to take time to live in that place of self-awareness, and to simply be discerning in the way that you choose to show up in life and the people that you choose to invite into your world. Please pray with me. And practitioners, if you would please stand. And what we know right here and right now is that Spirit is present in all of this. God has been here from the beginning. God will be here when we leave. God will be with us later today and tomorrow. Always on, always present. That is Spirit. And knowing this and embracing this very idea, we can feel assured that life is good. We can feel assured that life is blessed and that we are never alone. We are never outcast. We are never less than. We are the beauty, the value, the worth, the love that is God. And so what I know right here and right now is that each and every person present today is blessed. The divine lives within each of us. And this week we take time to pause when it's important, to rise up when that's what we're ready to do, to show up in our authentic self as all of the I amness that is God in each of us. How blessed, how perfect, how great this is, and how reassuring it is. And so what I know right here, right now, is all people everywhere are blessed because Spirit lives within each and every one. And this is good, and this is perfect. And so as we release this time together today, and as we release this prayer, we turn it over to the law of mind, where God already knows all that we are and all that we need. And so we just let it go. We just let it go, and we let it be. And so it is.
Close my eyes, I open my heart. I'll take a deep breath, let the healing start. I lift my hands, I plant my feet, I let love in. I feel the beat that's calling us to rise, rise.
Hello. I'm Reverend Jen Wild, Senior Minister for New Dawn Center for Spiritual Living. New Dawn Center is a global community, and we welcome all people, all paths, all ways of thinking, all philosophies. So know that you are welcome here. And thank you for joining our online community.